What year is it? Hello, it's the Johnos. I haven't done one of these in a while, so I thought it'd be a good idea to return to form. And this time I'm a grizzled, hardened man who's a lot less hesitant to say the fuck word.
So, since it's 2019, I was thinking of doing a video about Akira, but I came to the realization that there isn't much I can add to that conversation. There have been a great many videos, some of which came out this year, that do the film far more justice than I ever could. It's an amazing movie. My favorite movie, in fact. And its impact on film history can't be overstated. But there is another, related film that I would like to tell you about. One that turned 30 this year and is directly inspired by the ending of Akira, and that few, if any, have talked about in depth. You read the title of the video. That film is Tetsuo the Iron Man, released in 1989 and directed by Shinya Tsukamoto. I teased this review in my last Johnos Reviews video, where I pointed him out in the cast of Shin Godzilla, and have been thinking about how I'd tackle this film ever since. The problem is that it's an art film. An extremely bizarre art film. I doubt you'd want me to simply react to what's going on. 30 minutes of oh shit what the fuck isn't very analytical, is it? So for this video I'm going to go through the film, comment on its bizarre nature, crack jokes, do the usual internet critic thing, but also offer up my personal interpretations of metaphors.
So without further stalling, let's get metal.
We open on a man walking home through an industrial wasteland. Usually, Japanese films of the time would focus on the neon lights and skyscrapers of the cities, but here we see the other side of the coin. Already, there is a great atmosphere at play with the gritty black and white, as well as the amazing sound design. We then see his house, which is a twisted array of metallic sculptures and pictures of Olympic runners. Such imagery will be important to this character later. Accompanying this imagery, we get our first taste of composer Chu Ishikawa's music, which is kind of proto-industrial with a bit of 80s techno. Very cool stuff, and I highly recommend giving the soundtrack a listen.
Ugh. Holy shit. Well, that came out of nowhere. I can't show too much of this scene because YouTube would probably throw the book at me. Expect a lot of that in this movie.
But anyways, after slicing himself open, he then proceeds to jam a metal rod into the wound. This scene has some pretty obvious implications, a painful and bloody penetration with a phallic object. This character fetishizes metal, and this is the point where he goes all the way with it for the first time. Yeah, that's a lame interpretation, but I have a feeling that's what Tsukamoto was going for. Later, he sees that his wound is infected and maggot-infested, and he flees his home in panic, where he is then promptly hit by a car. Okay, the way they filmed this makes it seem like the car is fucking him. And knowing what I know about this movie, that's probably intentional. After that, we then bear witness to one of the coolest title sequences I've ever seen. It also introduces us to our protagonist, played by Tomorowo Taguchi. Believe it or not, he too made a cameo in a kaiju film, as he was the guy with the glasses that was brutally murdered by the Legion drone in Gamera 2. So this guy, whose name isn't actually Tetsuo but is credited as The Man, finds a metal pimple on his face while shaving. Yeah, that's about what happens when I pop one too. He then has one of the most engaging and normal phone conversations in history. After that, we see him getting off a train, presumably on his way to work. He sits on a bench next to this cutie, and she sees a weird thing on the ground next to her, and this shit happens. Why she saw fit to poke a weird metallic blob thing on the ground, I have no idea, but that's not important. Our guy then sees that whatever that thing was has infected the woman's hand, and she attacks him, leading us into the first of many chase scenes in the film. She eventually chases him into a bathroom stall, where he thinks he's safe until... They tussle for a bit, but he escapes when this happens. She catches up, and they continue to fight in a garage, and he finally kills his foe after discovering that he has some weird metallic mutations on his body, giving us a glimpse of the incredible makeup effects in the film. Then more shit happens. Weird sexual shit that I can't show on YouTube. Long story short, he gets pegged by his girlfriend with a giant metal snake penis. And no, I have no interpretation for this one. It's just weird. Lucky for him, it was all just a dream. Except he's still mutated. And his girlfriend is really there in the apartment. Wait, was it a dream? Or an exaggerated version of what they were really doing? I have no idea. It may be the latter, as it then smash cuts to them in the midst of a graphic sex scene, possibly one of the most physical and gratuitous I've ever seen in a film. And it goes on for a while. Afterwards, they try to regain some lost calories with some sausage and onions, and this happens. Oh no, don't go for the sausage. Ah, that's weird. Jeez, so many fetishes, and this movie's only 67 minutes long. Our guy seems to get a little too excited, and we get the most iconic scene in the whole movie. Not Tetsuo and his girlfriend are both visibly upset by this development. Probably because weird sexy time is over now, and the poor guy goes to pout in the corner. When his girlfriend goes to comfort him, he's much further along in his mutation and extremely agitated. So much so that he attacks her. They fight for a while. During this scene, they keep reusing the same scream over and over, and it sounds really weird. Also, there's this. After the fight, they fall on the floor and start making out for some reason. There's a weird flashback that I'll explain later, and then he accidentally kills his girlfriend with his drill penis. I guess she really got screwed on that one. While our hero takes a bath and gathers his thoughts, we return to the house from the beginning, now more adorned with metal structures where the metal fetishist is stirring. In this scene, we get some background on his character. Apparently, when he was hit by the car at the beginning, a piece of rusty metal got lodged in his brain, and he became genetically fused with rust, which is why he too is having the metallic mutations, though he seems more in control of it. Also, all the flashbacks in this movie are done by recording the scene, playing it back on a TV, and then filming the TV. Not important to the current event, I just wanted to fit that trivia in somewhere. Meanwhile, back at our main guy's house, things are... still weird. Nothing new. His body is now completely covered in metal, and it looks really cool. Serious props to the art department. So, it's at this point, a little more than halfway through the film, that there is suddenly an actual plot, with a hero and a villain and all that good stuff. but don't worry, it's still weird and challenging to follow. Yay. Our hero, still in grief, gets a phone call from the metal fetishist who taunts him. Then his TV turns on and plays footage of the car hitting the metal fetishist. It turns out that the man was driving the car, and his girlfriend was riding shotgun.
And the plot thickens!
What makes things worse is that they go and dump the body somewhere, and for some reason decide to have sex, right in view of what they thought was his corpse. So we've established their backstories and rivalry. And if it sounds like a superhero villain setup to you, I have some good news for you if you stick around to the end. Now, let's get to the confrontation. The metal fetishist dolls himself up, while not Tetsuo shocks himself to get stronger, I guess? Maybe that's what he's doing? But then we get this cool shot of old MF shooting down the road in stop motion, while metal objects crumble and bend as he passes. When he gets to the house, he makes quite the entrance, magnifying everything, moving through the pipes, possessing the girlfriend's dead body, and melting her only to rise out of the ooze. After some banter, the metal fetishist slams a TV onto Not Tetsuo's face to show him his vision of a whole new world. And this one isn't very Disney-friendly, nor did it get a terrible remake with a cartoon Will Smith.
I can show you the world, shining, shimmering, splendid.
Alright, now it's go time. They're out of the house, somehow, and engage in another chase. The metal fetishist also strips away his formal gear and reveals his signature Racer X outfit. Okay, references aside, this chase sequence is pretty sick. They do some telekinetic dueling here and there as they go. It's a highlight of the film. As the chase scene goes on, however, there's suddenly a scene where a hobo beats up the cameraman with a metal rod. You'd think this is just another weird scene, but I do actually have an explanation for it. I think this scene is a flashback to the metal fetishist's childhood. During this scene, Not Tetsuo still has part of the TV on his head, and there are flashes of visions which both characters seem to react to. I think Not Tetsuo was digging into the metal fetishist's mind and seeing his memories. Hence why we see the car and the trip to Not Tetsuo's apartment, both from the metal fetishist's perspective. During this scene, we hear the metal fetishist crying out for him to stop, which then fades away to a child's voice. And since this man addresses him as Sonny, one can assume that this is his father. My theory is that this is why the metal fetishist has a metal fetish. And that metal rod looks pretty familiar, doesn't it? There's even a very subtle quick cut to the self-mutilation scene at the end of this flashback. Take this with a grain of salt, though, because this is all my personal interpretation of the situation. Anyways, after that, the metal fetishist seems to be incapacitated and bonks his head on a metal tank of some kind.
That sound effect is hilarious.
Not Tetsuo flies ahead and crashes into a factory, where the piece of the TV falls off his face and he is finally in full control of himself. But then the metal fetishist catches up and our final confrontation can begin. The metal fetishist starts tearing the factory apart and activating the machinery, as Not Tetsuo begins to expand and absorb the metal around him. Also, the metal fetishist has an explanation for why they have metal powers. The metal fetishist gets impaled by Not Tetsuo, but he's still acting cocky. That quickly fades when Not Tetsuo whips out the drill dick, and this time, it's bigger. Not Tetsuo starts to absorb the metal fetishist in an effort to kill his foe and rust himself to death. It's weird, it's gross, but it seems to work. There's a weird homoerotic scene in there somewhere, but we're almost done, so whatever. So, it's over. The day is saved. Or so you'd think. That's right. They fuse together into a 20-foot metal cock. And now they want to take over the world. Should have seen that coming, honestly. And so, the movie ends in an apocalypse scenario.
Wow, that was the longest 67 minutes of my life. But you know what? I'd do it again. This movie fucking rocks.
With that short, sweet runtime and the fast-paced editing and cinematography, this film is extremely easy to sit through, even with all its weird ickiness. The cast is really strong. They all seem to have a ton of fun working on the film, and their performances are believable. A lot of the cast also did some double duty behind the scenes as well. Kei Fujiwara, who played Not Tetsuo's girlfriend, was the costume designer, and the director himself, Shinya Tsukamoto, played the metal fetishist. Also, throughout the film, we get brief glimpses into the student film that this is technically a remake of. It's that weird show on the TV with the high-pitched laughing. Not really that important, just wanted to mention that somewhere. So, what was that surprise I mentioned earlier? Well, you know how I said that the setup sounded like a superhero-villain dynamic? Well, there's not one, but 2 sequels to this movie, and they're much less bizarre and more straightforward hero-villain movies, not to mention in full color and with a bigger budget.
So get ready for some more heavy metal madness as we take a deeper dive into the demented mind of Shinya Tsukamoto. Until next time, whenever that may be, have a great day.